Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today in this module, we will be discussing about transfer station. Now, what are transfer stations? Transfer station is a centralized facility where the waste is segregated, processed and treated. It's an intermediate site between the collection and the disposal site. As you all know, population explosion, urbanization and industrialization has resulted in the generation of a huge amount of waste. Now, these waste that are generated from the human and animal activities from various sources such as the residential, institutional, commercial, agricultural and many more are generally disposed of in open dumps without any protection. Now, by doing so, it creates a lot of environmental and health hazards. To overcome the problem of environmental and health hazards, it is essential to frame out a waste management plan. Now, waste management plan includes various steps starting from collection, segregation, processing and treatment, finally ending up in disposal. Now, the transfer station plays a role in segregation, processing and treatment of solid waste, which we will be discussing about the transfer station in detail in the coming slides. The learning objectives of this module include to understand the concept and the significance of transfer station, to study in detail about the benefits associated with the use of transfer station, to understand the design issues associated with transfer station, and finally to gain knowledge on the transfer station technologies and problems associated with transfer station. Now, as I told you earlier, transfer station is a centralized facility and it is located between the collection and the disposal site. It's an intermediate station where the small collection vehicles which collect the waste from different sources are brought to this station and unloaded and reloaded back into large vehicles for transport to a disposal or a processing site. In addition to loading and unloading, the transfer station are also used as a temporary storage and waste processing sites. They have facilities for waste segregation, separation, size and volume reduction, for example, the shredders, compactors and so on, and even component separation is done in transfer station. For example, the magnetic separation, air classifiers, all these are installed in a transfer station. Now, the waste treatment facilities such as incineration, pyrolysis and composting are also set up in a transfer station. In areas where you have a narrow or a congested lane where you cannot use the compacted trucks for waste collection, there the transfer station can play a significant role in facilitating the transfer of waste from small collection vehicles to the non-compacted trucks for segregation and reloading into large vehicles. Also, when the waste is not so dense, then you can bring them to the transfer station and you can compact them. The transfer station also serves best when the distance between the collection area and the disposal site is very high. They can act as a garage for temporary parking and vehicle servicing. I mean the collection vehicle parking and vehicle servicing. Now, you have two main limitations for this transfer station, that is, it involves extra labor and additional construction cost for building the transfer station. The transfer station also consumes high amount of energy for waste transfer, segregation and processing. The problems associated with transfer station include it attracts flies and other insect vectors and it creates odor because it acts like a temporary storage site. Also, the traffic and noise is created when these vehicles enter into the transfer station for unloading and reloading. Third, it also invite resentment of the communities living in the vicinity of the transfer stations. Now, why do you need a transfer station? It depends upon the following criteria. 1. Based on the type of waste received. 2. Based on the processing involved in recovering materials. 3. Based on the type of collection vehicle. And 4. It is based on the site topography and access. Now, under type of waste received, for example, when you receive a commingled waste, it requires an intermediate facility for segregation and sorting. Likewise, if you have huge amount of waste generation, that also requires the need of a transfer station. The process involved in recovering materials. For example, if you have a commingled waste where you have a lot of recyclables in them, you need an intermediate site for segregation. So, that can act like a site where you can recover materials. So, waste that has already been segregated does not require a transfer station. When a commingled waste comes, then the recyclables can be segregated before they are taken to the respective industries for further processing. The segregation can be done either manually or mechanically, and the materials can be recovered. For example, ferrous and non-ferrous waste from the commingled waste are generally separated in the transfer station. Now, based on the type of collection vehicle, like in general, the collection vehicles are chosen depending upon the characteristic of the area. If you have a narrow and congested lanes, then you go for a small vehicle, and if you have a wide lane, then you use a compacted trucks. So, as mentioned earlier, the small collection vehicles require transfer station for unloading and reloading them to bigger collection vehicles. Now, based on the size, the transfer stations are classified into 3 types: small, medium and large. Now, what are the criteria which plays a role in determining the size of the transfer station? It is the population density and the frequency of collection. Based on these 3 criteria, the transfer stations are categorized into 3 types. 1. Small transfer station. Now, these transfer stations can hold waste up to 100 tons per day. It is a direct discharge station and it does not have an intermediate waste storage area. Depending upon the site characteristics and weather condition, the transfer stations can be either indoor or outdoor. Small transfer stations generally focus only on segregation and hence do not have any processing and treatment facilities. Now, the medium transfer station, it is almost similar to a small transfer station except for the capacity of waste, because it can hold waste by around 100 to 500 tons per day. Again, they can be indoor or outdoor. In some cases, they have a very few processing units in a medium transfer station. Now, large transfer stations are designated especially for the municipal solid waste collection vehicles. These transfer stations are generally constructed outdoors. In addition to segregation, you have component separation, size and volume reduction facilities available in a large transfer station. In some large transfer station, you will also have inbuilt incinerators and composting facilities. Now, here before the vehicle enters and leaves the transfer station, they will be weighed and the waste will be taken along with the truck. It will be taken to an area where it will have a pit, platform and a waiting trailer. The waste is unloaded and then through the trailer it is taken for segregation and processing. Now, we will look into the design of a large transfer station. Now, depending upon the type of vehicles and the distance between the source of generation and disposal site, the design of a large transfer station fall into 3 categories. 1. Direct discharge non-compaction station. 2. Platform or pit non-compaction station, and third one, compaction station. Now, in a direct discharge non-compaction station, the waste is brought in the small collection vehicles are discharged into a transfer trailer. Now, the station consists of two operating floors. One on the top floor where the waste from the collection vehicles are dropped through a hopper into an open trailer onto the lower floor. The trailers are provided with special scales which on receiving the maximum load, it will stop the dumping process. The waste on the trailer will always be covered with a tarpaulin to avoid the entry of water into the waste. The waste in the trailer is then distributed using a stationary crane provided with a bucket. Now, the second type, the platform or pit non-compaction station, the waste is dumped onto a platform or a pit using a crane. Now, this platform or a pit will serve as a temporary storage site too. The recyclables or any unacceptable matters are segregated either by hand picking while waste is stored in the platform, and through the front end loaders, the waste will be pushed into the open top trailers. Now, similar to the direct discharge station, platforms has 2 levels and the pit has 3 levels. The major disadvantage of this facility is the increased cost of construction contributed by the increased floor space. This facility also manages huge amount of waste and can act as a temporary storage site. The third type, the compaction station, this station is favored when the waste is to be compacted. The mechanical compactors are installed in this station to compress and bale the waste. Hydraulically powered compactors are commonly used for compacting the waste. The waste is initially fed through a chute either directly from the collection trucks or from pits. The compaction stations are mostly preferred during the following conditions: 1. During the baling of waste for shipment, 2. For the site location, 2. When the site location does not permit multi-level building, 3. Due to size restrictions when open trailers cannot be used. There are certain disadvantages for this compaction facility. 1. The efficiency of compactor drops with time, and 2. The non-availability of spare parts and labor. 3. Improper maintenance of the equipment. Now, there are a lot of problems which are associated with this transfer station. Now, let's look into the various problems that are associated with this transfer station. First, site selection. Now, it is essential for us to choose a site which is generally isolated. The site should be isolated from other residential areas to avoid problems of odor, flies and insects. The noise caused by the vehicles create a huge disturbance to the public. Hence, it is always better that if you have a transfer station in an isolated area so that all these nuisance can be avoided. The transfer station will attract flies and other insect vectors which can cause a lot of diseases among the public. Since the waste is going to be stored for more than a day in a transfer station, they generate a lot of smell, foul smell and bad odor due to the decomposition of the waste. Again, dust is another major problem in transfer station. The source of dust can be unpaved roads or wind or waste material being carried off from the transfer station. Traffic congestion can also occur when vehicles reach the transfer station at same point of time. This can also lead to public nuisance. The level of noise pollution is also high in the vicinity of transfer station. Now, these are the problems which generally limit the application of transfer station in a waste management plan. Now, let's discuss about the size of the transfer station. The size of the transfer station is planned based on few factors. They include the quantity of waste generated within the service area, the rate at which the waste is to be delivered, changes in the population growth, segregation pattern, recycling programs, the peak flows of waste, and the types of vehicles delivering the waste. The types of waste brought to transfer station, that is the municipal waste or construction waste, e-waste, compacted waste, or any other type of waste. Now let's look into the size of transfer station. Now the size of a transfer station is planned based on some of the factors which are discussed below. 1. The quantity of waste generated, the rate at which the waste is to be delivered to the station. Third, changes in the population, segregation pattern, recycling programs, peak flows of waste, types of vehicles delivering the waste, the nature of waste, for example, from which source the waste is coming, like the municipal waste, construction waste, e-waste, and so on. Influence of seasons, then time period during which waste is to be brought to the transfer station, then facilities available in the transfer station, example, the availability and working condition of trailers, rail cars, barges, etc. Also, the speed of loading and unloading of waste materials should be considered. Expected increase in the quality of waste also should be taken care during the life of the facility. The potentiality to upgrade the facility to hold other facilities such as the recycling facility and the waste to energy facility should also be considered, determining the size of the transfer station. Now, the capacity of transfer station is another important factor that needs to be considered while constructing the transfer station. Now, it should be designed in such a way that it should possess a capacity to hold or store the waste for 2 days. The transfer station is planned, designed to have an adequate space for additional waste storage. Also, there should be space available for upgrading the transfer station with waste processing equipments. Also, there should be adequate space for waste loading, vehicle and equipment maneuvering. The design should have provisions for weighing bridge, office and other related facilities. Now, the factors considered while designing the transfer station will include the type of collection vehicle, the capacity of collection vehicle, number of collection vehicles that will enter the facility, the waste storage period on tipping floor, time taken by the collection vehicles to unload the waste, time of arrival and departure of these collection vehicles, waste sorting and processing facility that is to be set up in the transfer station, the capacity of transfer trailer, the time requirement for stable operation, attachment and detachment of trailers from tractors and compactors should be considered. Now, based on this, the capacity of transfer station is determined based on the following methods. So, you have 4 methods here. 1, the pit station method. 2nd, the direct dump station. 3rd, hopper compaction station. And 4th, push pit compaction station. Now, under the pit station, based on the rate at which the waste can be unloaded from the collection vehicle, it is given by C is equal to PC into L by W into 60 into HW by TC into F, where C is your station capacity, PC is your collection vehicle payload, L will be the total length of dumping space, HW will be the hours per day that waste is delivered, TC would be the time to unload the waste from each collection vehicle, and F would be the peaking factor, that is the ratio of the number of collection vehicle received during an average 30-minute period to the number received during a peak of 30-minute period. Likewise, in the pit station method, you also have a method which is calculated based on the rate at which the transfer trailers are loaded, which is given by C is equal to PT into N into 60 into HT divided by capital T small t plus B. PT is a transfer trailer payload, N is the number of transfer trailers loading simultaneously, HT would be the hours per day used to load trailers, B would be the time to remove and replace each loaded trailer, and capital T small t would be time to load each transfer trailer in minutes. Same way, you can calculate the capacity of the transfer station using the direct dump station method, hopper compaction station method and push pit compaction station method. Now we will discuss about the transfer station technologies. The transfer technology describes the method by which the waste is handled within the transfer station. So beginning from the waste unloading from the collection vehicle to the on to the tipping floor to waste processing, and until it leaves the transfer station, everything is taken care of in this different technologies. The commonly used technologies are open top transfer trailer, surge pit, stationary compactors, pre-compactor system, balers and intermodal container system. Now first let us discuss about the open top transfer trailers. The open top transfer trailer is a simple and flexible technology which does not use any compactors or baling units. In the open transfer trailers, the waste is unloaded directly into the open top of the trailer. The waste is generally unloaded on the tipping floor to facilitate inspection and segregation of materials before being dropped into the trailer. The trailers are more than 100 cubic yards to get a good payload. Now the waste dropped into the trailer is not compacted, and this technology is preferred for low volume operations. Now in this image you can see how the vehicles which is carrying the waste is just unloading the waste in the tipping floor, and from there it is taken and then it is segregated or compacted, and accordingly the processing is being done. The second type is a surge pit, where in the surge pit technology the waste is generally compacted by a bulldozer before loading. Now this is an intermediate step in open top or pre-compactor systems. This technology reduces the number of trailers and they serve as a storage unit during the peak flow time, that is when the waste generation is very high. The major advantage of this system is the material recovery or sorting is not possible in this particular type. Next technology is the stationary compactor, where the waste is unloaded onto the tipping floor and compacted using a hydraulic ram in the transfer trailer. The trailer should be strong enough to withstand the load of compactor ram and the waste material. It is usually made of reinforced steel. Now this technology is not so popular among other technologies. The next type is a pre-compactor system. In this technology, the waste is compacted before being discharged into the trailer system. A cylinder with hydraulic ram is used to compact the waste, dense log of waste. The log is then pushed into the trailer and the log slowly moves along the trailer by gravity, and this technology is generally termed as a walking flow technology. The investment cost of the pre-compactors are generally very high. On the right hand side, you can see the image how the waste is being dropped onto the tipping floor, and slowly it is just compacted like a huge log, and the log is carried off with gravity. Next type is the balers. Balers are equipments generally used to compress or compact the waste. The waste is compacted into dense bales which are then tied using a wire strap to hold them intact. The paper and metal are compacted or baled by this method. Balers are generally used when high volume operations are required, and it is also used when these bales are to be placed in the landfills. Similar to pre-compactors, balers too involve very high capital cost. The last type of transfer technology is the intermodal container system, where the waste is brought through the collection vehicle, dropped onto the tipping floor, and it is loaded into intermodal containers. Now the loaded containers are placed in flat bed trailers and railroad flat cars to ease the transportation of waste to landfills. The containers are then sealed and stored on site for more than 24 hours until the containers are filled. The intermodal containers control both moisture and odor. The containers are then unloaded by tippers in landfills. It is one of the cost-effective option, and they also reduce traffic congestion. Now let's look into the benefits of transfer station. The benefits of transfer station would be to minimize the cost of collection, minimize the fuel cost of vehicles and labor. Also, it helps in recovery of recyclables. It provides a lot of increased flexibility. It reduces the number of collection vehicles through large trailers, and also efficient operation of collection vehicles and rapid return to work. We can choose a disposal site far away from population areas when you have a transfer station installed in between the collection and the disposal site. Also, they provide an opportunity to inspect and process the waste. To summarize, at the end of this module, you might have understood about the transfer station, its significance, what are its design aspects, how it can be designed, what are the different types of transfer stations which are available or classified based on their capacity and size. Also, you might have studied about the benefits and the drawbacks of transfer station. Thank you.